Today we're going to dive into the story of a king so powerful he didn't just wear a crown, he claimed to be God himself, a ruler whose pride would spark one of the most epic confrontations in history.
Okay, so let's start with this one line, this single declaration of absolute arrogance. This is where our story really kicks off. In the mighty and proud land of ancient Egypt, a king we know as Pharaoh makes a claim that defies heaven itself. He wasn't just a ruler. In his own mind, he was the ultimate power.
All right, so let's really set the scene here. We're talking about an empire whose palaces weren't just built with stone, they were built on pure, unadulterated pride. And all of it, every last bit, rested on the backs of an enslaved people who had been systematically crushed for generations.
And this really lays out the stark reality of that society. I mean, look at the contrast. On one side, you've got the Egyptians, masters of a fertile land, living in total luxury and power. And then on the other side, you have the children of Israel, the Bani Israel, enslaved, forced into backbreaking labor, and kept weak on purpose.
So, what could possibly scare a guy who thinks he's a god? It's a great question, right? You'd think nothing could touch him. And yet, a single dream. That's all it took to plant this seed of absolute terror in the heart of the most powerful man on earth.
So here's what happened. Pharaoh has this terrifying dream. He sees a fire, right? And it's coming from Jerusalem, and it's burning down the homes of his own people. But here's the crazy part. The homes of the Israelites, totally untouched. His soothsayers come in with this chilling warning. A boy is going to be born to the Israelites, and he will be the downfall of your entire kingdom.
And this is the moment. This is where that fear just curdles into pure, raw brutality. To try and, snuff out the problem before it could even start, Pharaoh issues this decree. And let's be clear, this wasn't a law. This was a death warrant for thousands of innocent babies. An act of unimaginable cruelty, all driven by terror.
But here's the thing about destiny. Right in the middle of all this terror, this state-sponsored slaughter of infants, the child from the prophecy is born. The very one destined to challenge Pharaoh. And his name? Moses.
Now, you can only imagine the terror Moses' mother felt. But then, she receives this divine plan. And honestly, it sounds completely insane. She's told to put her baby in the river when the soldiers come. But there's a promise attached. Do not fear. We will bring him back to you. Talk about a leap of faith.
And what happens next is just unbelievable. The chest with baby Moses floats right down the Nile. And where does it end up? Right at Pharaoh's palace. And who finds him? Pharaoh's own wife, Assia. And then the ultimate twist. The baby won't take milk from anyone, so they bring in his own mother to be his wet nurse. The promise was fulfilled.
It's actually Assia, Pharaoh's wife, who talks him into keeping the baby. And this is where Pharaoh's massive ego becomes his undoing. He looks at this tiny infant from the very people he's trying to wipe out, and basically thinks, what harm can one little baby do? That moment right there, that was the beginning of the end for him.
Okay, so let's fast forward. Years go by. Moses grows up. He actually flees Egypt for a while, but then he returns. And this time, he's not a prince, he's a prophet of God. And he's got a message for the tyrant who raised him. Let my people go.
So now the stage is set for this epic showdown. Pharaoh, trying to make Moses look like a fool, brings in his absolute best magicians. They throw their ropes on the ground and poof, through some kind of trickery, they look like snakes. But then Moses throws down his staff, and it doesn't just look like a serpent, it becomes a real, massive serpent. And then it just eats all the fakes. Game over.
And the reaction is instant. The magicians, these are the experts in illusion, right? They know a real miracle when they see one. They hit the ground, totally convinced, saying, this isn't a trick, this is from God. But Pharaoh, even with his own guys telling him it's real, his pride just gets bigger. He starts screaming that it's all a big conspiracy.
So, since Pharaoh absolutely refuses to listen to reason, his heart just getting harder and harder with his own arrogance, he and his people are about to face a series of divine warnings, each one worse than the last.
And these plagues were just relentless. First, floods that wipe out all their crops. Then, swarms of locusts that eat everything green that's left. Then, lice everywhere, tormenting everyone. Hordes of frogs, literally pouring out of every corner. And finally, the lifeblood of their kingdom, the Nile River, turns to actual blood. Each plague was like a hammer blow, but Pharaoh, he just kept dismissing it all as more of Moses' magic. So after all this, Pharaoh finally breaks, or at least it seems like it. He lets the Israelites go. Moses leads them out under the cover of darkness, but that pride of Pharaoh's, it just won't die. He changes his mind, gathers his entire army, and gives chase. And this brings us to the final epic act.
Just try to picture this scene. The Israelites are completely and utterly trapped. In front of them, the massive, churning sea. Behind them, the dust cloud of Pharaoh's entire army closing in for the kill. I mean, can you imagine the sheer terror? There was literally nowhere to go.
And then the impossible happens. At God's command, Moses just strikes the water with his staff, and the sea, it parts. The waters just split open, creating this dry path right through the middle, with these two towering walls of water on either side. It's a pathway to freedom that just appeared out of nowhere.
So the Israelites, they don't hesitate, they run for it. And Pharaoh, seeing this path, is blinded by his arrogance one last time. He doesn't see a miracle for his enemies, he sees a highway for his chariots to catch them. He and his whole army charge right in. And the second the last Israelite steps on dry land, the walls of water just collapse.
And in those last moments, as the water is crashing down on him and he knows it's over, Pharaoh's arrogance finally shatters. He screams out, "I believe in the God of the children of Israel." But it was too late. A belief you only find when you're staring death in the face. After a whole lifetime of denial, it just wasn't accepted.
But this is where the story has one last incredible point to make. His last-minute conversion was rejected, but his story wasn't quite over. He was told, "Today, we will preserve your body." Why? Not as an honor, but as a sign. A physical, tangible sign for every generation to come to see with their own eyes the true cost of arrogance. A reminder that no matter how powerful you think you are, you can't defy the will of the divine. And you have to wonder, what is that sign meant to teach us today?